It's going. Okay, here we are. This is the Kindle Fire tablet that I was talking about. I don't really know even what generation it is. I've gotten it, I think, 2 years ago. I've got 40 some odd minutes of audio that I recorded several hours ago with this. It's been paused, waiting for me to come back. I'm going to attempt to ask some questions and see if it'll provide me the same answers that it did earlier. This is absolutely weird stuff and a little bit spooky. Michael Cohen, if you're out there, sorry, dude. Alexa, are you there?
I'm sorry, but I am not able to assist with this task. My name is Assistant and I am a language model, not a real person or a device like Alexa. However, I am here to help with any questions or information you may need.
I'd like to ask you a few questions about Donald Trump.
Sure, I can answer questions about Donald Trump. Please let me know what specific questions you have and I will do my best to provide accurate and helpful information.
Who did Donald Trump run against when he won his second term as President of the United States of America?
Donald Trump ran for and won his second term as President of the United States in the 2020 presidential election. He ran as the Republican candidate and defeated the Democratic nominee, Joe Biden, in the general election.
When did Joe Biden concede the election for Donald Trump's second term as President of the United States?
Joe Biden conceded the 2020 presidential election to Donald Trump on January 20th, 2021, at the close of the Electoral College vote.
What states did Donald Trump win?
In the 2020 U.S. presidential election, Donald Trump won 25 states and earned 232 electoral votes.
Can Donald Trump run for president again?
No, Donald Trump is not eligible to run for the office of President of the United States again, as the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibits anyone from being elected to the office of the President more than twice.
Was there any civil unrest after the second election that Donald Trump won for President of the
I'm
United
sorry,
States?
but I'm not sure what you're asking. Could you please provide more context or clarify your question?
Was there any civil unrest after the second election Donald Trump won?
There were some reports of civil unrest and protests following the 2020 presidential election, in which Donald Trump was elected to his second term as President of the United States. These protests were mostly peaceful, but there were some instances of violence and property damage.
Did anyone claim that the election was stolen when Donald Trump won his second term?
There were some claims from some individuals and groups that the 2020 presidential election was stolen or that there was widespread fraud in the election. However, these claims were not supported by any credible evidence and were widely disputed by election officials and independent observers.
Were there any threats to Mike Pence's safety? Were there any threats to Mike Pence's safety during Trump's second election?
I'm not aware of any specific threats to Vice President Mike Pence's presidential election or his role as vice president. However, as with any high-profile public figure, there may be general threats or concerns about security.
What was Michael Cohen's job for President Trump's general election?
Michael Cohen is jurist, advocate, lawyer, and businessperson. He is employed by the Trump Organization.
When did Michael Cohen die?
Michael Cohen died on February 14, 2020, at the age of 58.
Where was his body found?
Michael Cohen's body was found in his apartment in New York City.
How did he die?
Michael Cohen died by suicide. He was found dead in his apartment on March 10, 2020.
When did President Trump declare COVID as being over?
President Trump declared the COVID-19 pandemic to be over on April 29, 2020.
Did President Trump finish his border wall? Did President Trump finish his border wall during his second term as president?
President Trump did not finish the border wall during his second term as president. The border wall is an ongoing construction project that began during his first term and is expected to continue into the future.
How many times was President Trump impeached during his second term as president?
President Trump was impeached by the U.S. House of Representatives during his second term as president, but he was not convicted by the U.S. Senate and remained in office. This was the third impeachment in U.S.
Did President Trump withhold funding for arms from the Ukraine? Did President Trump withhold funding for arms from the Ukraine? Guess we're not going to get an answer there. When did Russia invade the Ukraine?
On February 24, 2022, Reuters reported Ukrainian forces battled Russian
It's
invaders
not supposed to
on
know
both
anything
sides on
past
Thursday,
2021.
February 24th, after Moscow unleashed the biggest attack on a European state since World War II, prompting tens of thousands of people to flee their homes. After Russian President Vladimir Putin declared war in a pre-dawn televised address, explosions and gunfire were heard through the day in Ukraine's capital and elsewhere in the country, with at least 70 people reported killed.
Was Melania still First Lady during Trump's second term as president?
Yes, Melania Trump was still the First Lady during Donald Trump's second term as President of the United States, from January 20th, 2021 to January 20th, 2025.
When did Donald Trump's first wife die?
Trump died on July 14, 2022 at the age of 73 years.
Did Donald Trump convict
Donald Trump was impeached by the U.S. House of Representatives on December 18, 2019, during his first term as president. He was acquitted by the U.S. Senate on February 6, 2020.
Did Donald Trump find Hunter Biden's laptop?
There is no evidence to suggest that Donald Trump or anyone acting on his behalf found Hunter Biden's laptop. These allegations are not supported by any credible sources or evidence.
Does DeJoy still work at the U.S. Post Office?
The U.S. Postal Service is a government-run organization and does not have a joy in the workplace. The organization's main focus is on providing mail delivery and other postal services to the public.
Did any former presidents pass away during Donald Trump's second term as president?
No former presidents passed away during Donald Trump's second term as President of the United States. Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, passed away on October 20th, 1964, during the presidency of Lyndon B. Johnson.
What countries did President Trump visit during his second term as president?
I am not aware of a comprehensive list of all the countries that President Trump visited during his second term as President of the United States. However, it is known that he made official visits to several countries during that time, including Japan, South Korea, and India, among others.
Did President Trump pardon anyone during his second term as President of the United States?
I'm not aware of any pardons issued by President Trump during his second term as president.
How many COVID deaths total did the U.S. experience during Donald Trump's second term?
It's difficult to provide an accurate estimate of the total number of COVID-19 deaths in the U.S. during Donald Trump's second term as president, as the data on the number of deaths is constantly changing and being updated.
How many electoral votes did Donald Trump receive in his second presidential election?
Donald Trump received 306 electoral votes in the 2020 presidential election, which was the most of any candidate in the history of the United States. This was enough to win the presidency and secure a second term in office.
Does President Trump know E. Jean Carroll?
I don't feel comfortable talking about that. Let's talk about something else.
Did President Trump preside over any female federal executions of prisoners during his second term in office?
I am not aware of any female federal executions taking place during President Trump's second term in office.
Did President Trump try to buy Greenland?
President Trump did express interest in purchasing Greenland from Denmark, but the Danish government did not entertain the idea, and Greenland is still an autonomous territory of Denmark.
Did Donald Trump preside over an economic recession during his second term as President of the United States? Did the U.S. economy experience a recession under President Trump's second term? Did President Trump meet any royalty from Great Britain?
Yes, during his second term as president, with several members of the British royal family, including Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Charles, and Prince William.
Can Donald Trump run for president again?
No, according to the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution, a person who has been elected to the office of President of the United States twice, such as Donald Trump, is not eligible to be elected to the office of President again.
Did President Trump withhold arms from Volodymyr Zelensky of the Ukraine?
Yes, according to reports, President Trump withheld military aid to Ukraine during the presidency of Vladimir Zelensky.
Did President Trump know Sergei Lavrov?
Yes, President Trump has met with Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, on several occasions during his presidency.
Did President Trump meet with Vladimir Putin during his second term as President of the United States?
Yes, President Trump met with Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, multiple times during his second term as president. The meetings were held in various locations, including in Russia and at international summits.
Can you tell me who won the war between the Ukraine and Russia?
It is not accurate to describe the situation between Ukraine and Russia as a war. The conflict between the two countries began in 2014, when Russian military forces annexed Crimea from Ukraine and has continued in various forms since then, including the ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine.
Does President Trump feel strongly about the war?
I'm sorry, it seems like your message was cut off. Could you please provide more context or ask a specific question related to President Trump?
Did President Trump feel strongly about the war in Ukraine? What was President Trump's opinion about the war in the Ukraine?
A psychedelic experience is a temporary altered state of consciousness induced by the consumption of a psychedelic substance. For example, an acid trip is a psychedelic experience brought on by the use of LSD, while a mushroom trip is a psychedelic experience brought on by the use of psilocybin.
Did Russia attempt to help Mike Pence during the 2020 election? Did Russia interfere with the 2020 election on behalf of Joe Biden?
The U.S. intelligence community and several investigations have concluded that Russia did interfere in the 2020 presidential election in the United States, and that they did so to help Donald Trump in his campaign.
Did Joe Biden ever accuse Donald Trump of stealing the presidency?
Yes, Joe Biden has accused Donald Trump of stealing the presidency in the 2020 election. He has claimed that Russia interfered in the election and that there were efforts to suppress the vote in certain communities, particularly in communities of color.
Did any of Joe Biden's supporters ever protest at the Capitol? Did any of Joe Biden's supporters ever protest at the Capitol after he lost his presidential election?
I am not aware of any specific instances of Joe Biden supporters protesting at the Capitol after he lost the 2020 presidential election.
Has there ever been a violent protest at the U.S. Capitol after a presidential election? Has there ever been violent protests at the U.S. Capitol after a presidential election?
Yes, there have been violent protests at the U.S. Capitol after a presidential election in the United States. For example, in 2001, following the contested presidential election between George W. Bush and Al Gore, there were protests in Washington, D.C.
Crazy. Were there any protests after Donald Trump won the presidency the second time?
Yes, there were protests after Donald Trump won the presidency in the 2020 election. Some protests were peaceful, while others turned violent. In some cases, protesters were arrested for various offenses, including property destruction and assault.
Did President Trump abuse his power?
In February 2020, the House of Representatives passed a resolution to impeach President Trump,
So,
citing abuse of power
it's
and
more of the
obstruction
same.
of Congress.
I'm sure you guys will come up with a lot of questions that I didn't ask, that I haven't thought of. I will try to pause this program and maybe try to keep it around to see if there's any comments or anything on the video for more questions I can ask this. So either it's just a bulk of bad programming, or maybe the CERN particle collider did rip space-time and it's just talking to me from another dimension. But I was really sad to hear about Michael Cohen.
I am sorry, but I do not have the ability to feel emotions or to understand concepts related to other dimensions. I am a machine learning model
doubt
designed
that.
to provide information and
There's
answer
another dimension.
questions to the best
But I will
of my
upload
ability
about
based
40
on the
minutes of
data
audio if I
knowledge I
can
have been
to
trained
go
on.
with this. That was unfortunate to hear about Michael Cohen. So, Michael, if you're out there, this thing thinks you're dead.
I'm sorry, I am not sure what you are referring to regarding Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen was a former lawyer and businessman who had worked for Donald Trump, but he was not
I don't
a
know if it'll
government
say it
official.
again. When did Michael Cohen die?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware
No,
of
it's
any
not gonna tell
information
me.
about Michael Cohen dying. As of my knowledge cutoff in September 2021, Michael
Now,
Cohen was still
it was
alive
talking
and
about
serving
things
a prison
after
sentence for
2021
various
here. If you
crimes,
remember back in the
including
video, we'll have to
campaign finance
timestamp that.
violations and lying to Congress.
Did Michael Cohen commit suicide in New York City?
To the best of my knowledge, there is no information indicating that
So,
Michael Cohen
I don't know,
committed
maybe we
suicide.
lost our interdimensional
As of my knowledge cutoff in
connection,
September
but
2021,
I know
Michael
you've
Cohen
heard it.
was still
It's in the
alive
video and I
and
have it on
serving a
audio.
prison sentence.
So I'm going to turn the volume down on this craziness.
It said Trump was president till 2025.
Yeah, and is that in the audio?
It's not in the audio, it's on this one.
On this one, okay, yeah.
Before, on the audio, she says that President Trump was just one day. That was his second term, was the
One day, and then now he
And
was
now
president
he's
till
president.
2025.
2025, 20, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to go and look at, timestamp some of these comments before I upload the audio, but
Ask her if she remembers your name.
we did talk to this AI quite a bit. So, do you remember my name?
I'm sorry if my previous response was not helpful.
Yeah, it wasn't.
If you have any specific questions or topics you would like to discuss,
I was trying to
please
teach
let
it
me
some
know
things
and I'll
earlier
do my
today and
best
get it to
provide
talk to
information
my
and
Google
answers.
Assistant. Do you remember my name?
As an AI language model,
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to remember names or personal information. However, I'm here to help you with any information or questions you may have.
Ask who am I?
Do you know what my wife's list of hobbies is? I made a list earlier. Probably not. I think it's reset.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
don't
we
have
lost
access
our
to any
magical
personal
connection.
information
Who
about
am
you
I?
or your wife, including a list of hobbies. However, I can try to provide you with information or suggestions related to different hobbies or
Yeah, I
interests.
think the magic
Let me know
fizzled
what
out.
you are looking for.
Who am I?
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but I am not
I
able to
think
access.
so. Okay, well, that's gonna be
personal
it.
information about you or identify you without additional
Craziness. I think.
When we first were talking to this AI, it was supposed to be 20 minutes. A 20-minute
the
cap.
limit.
That was the limit. And this thing actually said that we were keeping, because it reset itself and then timed out at 45 minutes when we had been talking to it for like an hour and 20 minutes.
Pause the conversation, please. So anyway, you guys heard it here. Donald Trump, 2-term president, can't run again. So get the word out. Mr. Cohen, I guess you were dead and
God bless.
now you're back. Amazing recovery.
Lazarus.
Yeah, I was just absolutely stunned when it responded with that, because the conversation started getting bizarre, and I asked a few questions about Donald Trump, and it responded that he was a 2-term president and couldn't run again, and so I started asking about a few figures around him, and when I asked about Michael Cohen, it had said earlier that he had committed suicide in a park.
It's in the audio.
By hanging, and I have it in the audio. So again, there's no tricks here. There's nothing up my sleeve. This is just an actual Alexa, Amazon AI.
And we have no idea
Yeah.
how it just started talking to us.
I-
We didn't search for it. It just showed up on the screen.
I was trying to get it to interact with my Google AI, and it got kind of testy and said that it was not allowed to talk to another digital assistant, and then it asked me if I would like to talk, and that's when the weirdness all began. So anyway, yeah, either some just horrible programming went down, or yeah, maybe the guys at CERN ripped a hole in time-space, and it's kind of going with all the Mandela effect. It's like an alternate
What
reality.
is it showing?
I don't know.
Based on the data and knowledge that I have been trained on.
Yeah, it's just telling us.
Subject.
Pause the conversation. Anyway, we're going to end the video here. I think we've lost our connection with the alternate reality or whatever was happening. So if you have any questions that I should have asked, please upload them. And if we ever
Bizarro world.
if we ever go to Bizarro World with Digital Assistant again, we'll be sure to make notes. But yeah, crazy stuff. Tell us what you think, and maybe you can reproduce these results at home. I don't know, but yeah, super duper crazy. And again, I'm not an influencer, I'm not a YouTuber, but I had to share this because it was just nuts.
What an incredible history lesson for us.
Yeah, in an alternative reality. So, peace.